Hey everybody, welcome to this Wednesday of March 2022, which is flying by really quickly. And welcome to Crew Talk, brought to you by Shoots.video. My name is Bonnie, or Bonnie Marie Williams if you're the lady at the DMV. And today we're going to be chatting about Crewmea with some fabulous guests. We've got Mike and Josh here with us, and Sarah will be joining us shortly. I know I've got some questions for each of you, so let's get started. Josh, if you would like to go first and introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Josh Friedman. I'm a filmmaker currently working as a DGA assistant director on a TV show. I wrote a book a very long time ago called Getting It Done, the Ultimate Production Assistant Guide, which trains PAs and bridges the gap between film school and working on union sets. And most recently in 2020, I launched Crewmea with my partner, Voravong. And so first we educate people, now we're helping them find work.
Fantastic. I love it. And Mike.
Bonnie, thank you for having me. Mike Camoin here in upstate New York, Albany, New York. I got into filmmaking and started my company called Videos for Change Productions. So I started in documentary. Then I got into location scouting for films that started to come up here as the tax credit was created around 2004. We started to see a boom up here and started the Northeast Filmmakers Lab. And it's into its 9th year now. And we take a handful of projects and we workshop them intensely over a 3-day span. And it's just incredible to watch filmmakers grow and learn how to articulate what it is they're actually working on.
That's awesome. This is so interesting to me because I don't really work on that side of everything. So I sit here and just listen all day. I think that's awesome. Well, I'm really glad that you both are here.
Shoots Video is a place for creatives to showcase their work and be seen by producers, marketing managers, corporate executives, and other future clients. Add your reel to Shoots Video today.
Josh, I want to elaborate a little bit. You were talking about how you got started and everything. Could you just tell us a little bit more about how you got started in production?
Sure. I was one of those very lucky people who knew somebody. And so when I was in high school, my guidance counselor was married to the producer of Law & Order: Criminal Intent. So I had that introduction, and flash forward to my college graduation. After I graduated, I literally moved straight up to New York, gave him a call, and I said, "Hey man, I'm here, I'm ready to work." And he said, "Great, good luck, click." And so I did the thing. So Craigslist, Mandy staffed me up at the time. I worked for free. I did music videos and student films, and to pay the bills, I was bartending. And then a year later, I called the guy up and I made this decision that I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to take that next step in my film career. And I had $200 left in my bank account. I quit the bar job. I called him up and I said, "Hey, I've been working for free. I've been doing this, this, and this." And it was much more humble this time. And he said, "Let me see if I can do something." And 2 months after that, I got a call from the second AD on Law & Order: Criminal Intent season 7. They said, "We've got a position open. It's a walkie PA. Would you like it?" I said, "I don't know what that is, but yes." And so that was the beginning of the end for me. From there, the track was 600 working days on union sets to join the Directors Guild of America as an assistant director. And I accomplished that in 2011 on a show called Person of Interest. From there, I used those skills to start producing. And I apologize, we have a special guest. This is Crewmea.
Look at that little face.
So he is the Crewmea mascot, and he is the OG Crewmea.
I love that. So speaking of, what is Crewmea?
So Crewmea is a mobile application that connects filmmakers with each other, opportunities, and resources. And we don't do it the way you typically would with corporate, with Indeed, Monster. The way we do it is we offer profiles, and the idea is not to post and hope that somebody answers. The idea is to let people know that you're available, and when they're looking, they just find you and make an offer. So to go into kind of the creation of the app, I was producing a movie in Texas, and we had to fire our gaffer. And at that point, I was literally 6 hours from the nearest piece of equipment, let alone people I know. So we ended up flying someone in from New York for that one. The first problem I was trying to solve was I'm in a location where I don't have resources. Where can I find them? And then I got back to New York where I've got 700 production assistants at my disposal. And now the problem is not who do I call, but it takes 60 phone calls to hire 6 people. So who's available? And that's really what Crewmea does. We solve those problems in a different way.
That's awesome. We love problem solving, right? Especially, can we do something faster, more efficient, bring people together? I love that. And
Exactly.
what
And
is,
not just with the hiring, we did vendors too.
oh,
So
awesome.
if you need camera rentals, insurance, education, film commissions, podcasts.
That's even better. I love it. And what is your current role within Crewmea?
So I am the founder, CEO, and creator. And then I have a co-founder, Vorobam Nishampasak, who heads up community outreach. And he's actually in Los Angeles right now. So we can't tell anybody this, but there is a group that he is a founding member of that we'll be announcing shortly. And it has to do with the diversity initiative. So look out for that.
That's awesome. I'm here in LA too,
Yeah.
so I'll keep my eyes peeled while I'm walking by In and Out. I'll keep my eyes peeled for that. That's awesome. I love
think
it.
he's in North Hollywood.
Oh, hey, okay, so he's my neighbor. That's even better. I will go buy him some In and Out. There we go. That's awesome. I'm going to come back to you because I do have some questions for Mike, who's hanging in there. So we were talking a little bit about some of the things you have going on right now, and it sounds like you have a lot of interesting projects going. Can you tell us about some of those?
Oh, sure. But first, I just want to say that I don't think I've ever been on a film set where somebody either disappeared or we needed somebody. And there's always this, you go to, well, who can you go to fill in that gap? So I can't wait to hear more about the Crewmea app. And I've got stories around that. I could tell you a story like on Frozen River, which was a short before it became the feature. It was shot in upstate New York with Melissa Leo and the late Misty Upham. But we lost our AD and we lost some other crew, and boy, you're scrambling those times. And so,
Mike, do you know? So first on Frozen River, when I was a PA on Law and Order that first season, my background PA Vadim became the second AD on Frozen River, and that's how I became a background PA because he left.
So and I was about to fill in. They were about to put me in as the AD, and I had no experience. I was the key set PA, and it was like a scramble. And it was freezing out. It literally was Frozen River. We're close to the Canadian border. That's what happens. And they had to go find somebody from New York. So that's just a great resource that you're creating, Josh. So Bonnie, Videos for Change started with a subject also in upstate New York, but there was nothing here. I didn't even have a phone call with anybody. There was, at that time, there was what's called the Saratoga Film Commission, but they primarily focused on big feature films, Age of Innocence and things like that were shot up here. There was no film course for me to take. I had to go down to New York, film and video arts. So I'd go down to New York City, study with Barbara Zimmerman and others on Doug Block on documentaries. But I finished my first doc in about 6 years called Inside the Blue Line. Followed that with Battles of Saratoga, and then worked on Frozen River, whatever was going to come up this way, upriver. But today, fast forward, I've created what's called Sally May Not. It's the pilot to the Scared to Death series, which is exposing America's student loan scam. And you get into these documentaries, and you just realize they affect this particular topic affects everybody, and you work on a shoestring. And you somehow make it happen. That particular piece, Sally May Not, won the Whistleblowers Summit Audience Choice Award in July. And so now we're turning that into a series because there's just so much information. And I was out in Sundance in 2020, and people ask you, what are you working on? And everybody's got student loans in this industry. And it's really a weight. It's a burden on, people being able to make creative decisions. I talked to people who are teaching on the West Coast, and one guy said to me, look, I'm a smart guy. I make good business decisions, but the debt here, I regret ever going for my PhD or master's in film and video. So that project is, we think you're going to hear a lot more about that in the coming months. Scared to Debt. I just started a new doc it's a sports doc called The Heart of Honest Basketball. And it's on my alma mater, St. Bonaventure. It's as we say, it's a story only an alumni can tell, but it takes a look both in the past, through this period of scandal to today, where the school almost went under as a result of this scandal. It was one of the top 7 scandals in all of sports history, and here they are today. They're hoping, they're knocking on the door of the NCAA's again. So it's something that it's in terms of the student loan doc, which is kind of a downer. This one's kind of an upper, and it's fun, and we're just getting started on that as well.
Wow. Yeah. Student loans. I know. Yeah. I'm officially this year 11 years out of college, and I still have friends and graduated with our degrees in theater and acting, and I know a lot of people who still have theirs. I'm very fortunate that I don't, but it was through unfortunate means that my student loans were paid off. But I know from my friends and very close people how hard that is. So I appreciate that you are bringing a lot more of that to light and talking about that especially in my generation. And I think that's really cool that you're doing more to not bring awareness to it, because we're all aware of it, but really talking more about how it's everybody and it's affecting so many people. So that's
can I just jump in case anybody listening also carries student loans, which is 25% chance that they do. I just want to say, this is not a bad borrower problem. This is a bad lending issue. And when I started it 5 years ago, all you saw in the media was the bad borrower and this, and, why can't you pay on your loans and stuff like that? And what did the pandemic do to our industry and to most industries? It exposed all the cracks. And this is one of them. And, the cost of college is still going up, even in the middle of a pandemic. So there's no belt tightening because there's no brakes. I can tell you this, there's no brakes on this system. They were removed by Congress and the lending business, all Wall Street. So we want to be able to finish this series. It's a 6-part series and tell it all as to why, how people are indentured by this. And my gosh, I had the good fortune of showing Sally Mae Not at USC in October. True story. The professor who heads up, Michael Renoff, heads up the docs program. He says, I wanted to show this because I feel complicit as a professor of film school. We know how hard it is to be in this industry, and we know not everybody stays in it. And we know that people don't make it, and they wind up doing something else with their degree. So, to be a part of that, and then, you're charging people $70,000 a year times 4. That's a lot of money, and so thanks to programs like this, people are learning other ways of, surviving in this industry and growing their craft hopefully without the debt.
Yeah. I know we're probably all sick of thinking about the pandemic, or sometimes I call it the panini, just because when I'm hungry. But I would love to hear about how each of you has pivoted during the pandemic. Josh, I'm sure you have stories with that. I'd love to hear any of those stories about how you have pivoted during the pandemic, especially running a business. That's something that I think a lot of us had to do, but
we didn't really pivot. We just kind of stayed the course. From a production perspective, yes, everything shut down. So it was March 15th. It was a Friday. Was that 15th or the 13th? One of those. I was on Love Life for HBO, and the studio calls. We literally showed up to set, got the cast through hair and makeup, gear stayed on the truck, had a production meeting. Everybody came in, and it was pack it up. We're going home. We'll see you when we see you. And so that was it. And I've never seen anybody wrap so fast. Like, all the gear was returned within 24 hours. Everything was shut down. And so that's kind of how it started. And so for Crewmea, what we did was we switched from trying to acquire users and trying to find jobs and opportunities for them to educating them about what's going on. And so first we started educating about the virus as we started learning about it. Then we started talking about the white papers and the safe way forward and the back to work agreement between AMPTP and the other unions. And so we started sharing that knowledge. And then once production started coming back in November, we switched back to user growth and all the other initiatives. And then personally, November, I was on a movie set, and it was very, very different. This time it was a bubble. So we had testing protocols. Everybody had to be tested daily, and this was before rapid. So you got to wait, and it might come back in 24 hours. It might come back in 72 hours. So if you can imagine, I was a key second on that. And my first AD, my director, they weren't allowed on set because their results hadn't come in, but the cast and the crew could. So thank God we were all in a place where they could be separate, but together. I had them on a porch inside a house doing their jobs while the cast was across the way at a different house doing an exterior shot, so they could yell across and actually work, but it was a very different way of working. Now I think we've all gotten used to it. So we go in and everybody knows you have to test before you can even set foot in hair and makeup and wardrobe, before you can come to your trailer. So the cadences we've just gotten used to. And that's it. For us, it's about educating. And if you take the DGA stance, which we often do, it's wait, collect the information, and make an informed, calculated decisions. That way we don't jump the gun and make mistakes.
Right on. And Mike, how did you pivot during the pandemic?
I was working as a location scout on a Christine Vachon film in upstate New York that, the plug was pulled. I'm grateful that they told me to get my invoices in, and that was used to apply for stimulus funding. The fact that I had a paycheck just prior to it. So I'm grateful for that. I pivoted by, one of my skills is to organize and bring people together. What I've done through the Northeast Filmmakers Lab. Prior to that, Upstate Independence, which was part of AIVF. And I could just add that, back in the day, there was no film commission in upstate New York. Like I said, it was just Saratoga, but it expanded. We got it to be now it's the Capital Saratoga Film Commission. They might have even changed their name again. And what I did was start to reach out to people. Zoom was just coming into my awareness. And by April, we had a show called Check the Gate. And at that time, we were doing, 1 or 2 episodes a week. And, I found that people were available. So we started to bring guests on, from London, the London Film Festival, to entertainment attorneys and actors. Then I'm blanking on the guy's name, the African-American who was killed in Minnesota, George Floyd. Mm-hmm. That just sent a royal message into our entertainment industry. So in June of 2020, you're starting to see our entire industry pivot around that in the middle of COVID. And, so then I was like, let me see who else I can reach out to. And so checked the gate. We started to bring on the issues of race and topics like that. And it was incredible learning about some of our friends who are actors, producers, musicians, what life was like for them. And so that became, a very good education for all of us, and to build upon that. So that was what fueled me, was communicating with other people through this. On the side job that I held to, make money, was realtors were also not able to show inside of properties. So I had a realtor friend said, "Hey, can you edit this? We just shot this, handheld." So it was like I did 8 houses of video tours. That was good money. And other shows like that just became incredibly valuable. And so, we're not going to put Zoom back into the bottle in any way. I think it's an incredible opportunity for us to communicate around the world. I mean, I remember attending con at 4:30 or 5 in the morning via Zoom. It was so much cheaper, but you still got to, network and have individual meetings, and just, took advantage of it that way, and getting plugged in to our industry. I find it fascinating now. Film festivals are still online. Some are now, going back to in person, but people you can meet, that's exciting. I felt like the pandemic broke our industry open, and it was like, wow, I was, everyone was like sharing pictures of, look who I was on with. I don't know if you remember that, but it was just like, it's pretty incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's actually things.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, good. There's a thing that happened with the DGA. So there's the East Coast assistant directors and there's the West Coast assistant directors. And before the pandemic, we rarely connected or spoke. And once the pandemic started, they did something called the Republic of Zoom. And so all of a sudden, East Coast and West Coast, 300 people were on the same call, having conversations, sharing information. And as we went back to work, they were also sharing information. Here's what we're doing in Georgia. Here's what we're doing in California. Here's what we're doing in New York. And that had never happened before.
Josh, I remember being on a Zoom with, it might have been a coffee with the Production Alliance, and they had a guest from Australia on there, and they were still filming, down there in New Zealand and Australia, and it was like, wow, it was an incredible exchange of information that was ever evolving and changing. It was quite a period.
It's crazy to think that was happening 2 years ago. And I think it was a Friday the 13th, because I think I was supposed to host a spooky St. Patrick's Day party, like a second Halloween in March on Friday the 13th. And then it was like, okay, well, this will blow over. And then it didn't. But yeah, when you were saying that earlier, I was like, it was Friday the 13th. I remember that.
Lucky day for me. I got off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good day for me too. I would love to ask you, Josh, about, do you have any new or upcoming features or tools that you can share coming up with Crewmea? Anything that's like coming out?
We do have a 2.0 that we are developing. We'll be launching it mid-May of this year, and then we'll be adding features month by month after that. But really, what we've done is we've instituted a social feed. So given more of a community aspect, we've offered more ways to connect, whether that's through teams, through groups. And I don't mean like Facebook groups, people just put them up. I mean, these are nonprofit organizations and legitimate businesses that support diversity, support education, support filmmakers in ways that they haven't been able to find before. So those are the kinds of things that we're really working towards with the 2.0 build.
Love it. 2.0. We love new things rolling out. That sounds fun and probably stressful in a good way, like that excitement probably with like getting things ready to roll out.
Not hard at all. It's just complicated.
Love it. I love that.
Right.
And what do you like most about what you do there?
What did I do at Crewmea?
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard question to answer.
Top three.
There's not very
Top
much.
Three.
It's really simple. I love to serve. Take it in every way that you possibly can. I love to help people. I love to serve the community. I love to take care of this guy. Um, that's what I do and why I do it. I wrote the book so that we could educate the community because I wanted to work with people that were better. And we provide opportunities, and we're trying to deal with the problems that everybody's talking about, whether that is diversity, whether that is learning and figuring out how to take that next step, whether you want to be a PA or you want to be a grip. There's different paths for each of us to take, and I love to serve. That's really what I love about this.
Fantastic. I can't beat that answer. That's wonderful. Awesome. Thank you. Can't beat that. Love to serve. I love it. Mike, I wanted to go back a little bit a ways for a question that I have for you is, what's the number one thing that people should know about film design? And when you say film design, what do you mean by that specifically?
Well,
a two-parter.
Well, when you mean by design, do you mean like putting something together, production together, or
film design and what it means to you?
Wow.
Loaded questions. Sarah's the best one to answer this.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no worries.
So I shoot from the hip, Bonnie. I just figure I find a topic that I like, and if it stays with me, then it sticks, and then I go deeper into it, and from there I try to figure out what the story is going to be, or what grabs me, what speaks to me. In my very first documentary, it was an Adirondack woodsman who was also a painter and a craftsman, and he said, you got to make something that speaks to yourself first. If you pass that litmus test, then maybe somebody else will like it too. And of course, people loved what he did. It's just incredible. So, but make something that speaks to you would be the beginning of my idea of designing something that might actually speak to another audience as well.
I love that. That's really cool. So I know very, very little about this side of things. So it's always interesting for me to be here and to learn something new as well. Cause I'm either behind the microphone or in front of the camera, and they're like, okay, you can leave. That's kind of everything that I do. I had when I worked in the costume shop at a theater, she just said, you're an actor, you're a prop that eats. And it was like, wow, okay, well, she said it with love.
Yep.
But, I was like, wow, that's, when you put it that way, you're not wrong. So a lot of this was really cool for me to learn. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I would love to ask, this is normally one I would save to the end because I know Sarah's going to be here, but what is the most challenging part of your job, Mike? And then I'm going to ask you, Josh, what's the most challenging part?
I believe that the most challenging part for me is working in isolation, working alone. And that's why I started the network called Upstate Independence over 25 years ago as part of the AIVF salon movement. And we hosted monthly meetings, and other people showed up, and it kept going we handed the reins off. I say we, Tom Mercer and I co-founded it. But it hit a nerve because a lot of other people were working alone in isolation. And then once a month we would get together, and it would be project presentations, pitches, education, and networking. And people kept coming back, and they wanted more, and the network grew. So, anywhere you can join in with sort of a think tank can help you propel, get you unstuck. Obviously, raising funds is a hard part, but just keeping your passion going is, I think, even more important. And, we started the Northeast Filmmakers Lab, which, Josh Friedman is one of our industry advisors on.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just brag about this, Bonnie, when filmmakers come into the lab, they really know very little about pitching. And we tell them that, hey, right here on Zoom, we've done 3 days of Zoom and people don't want it to end. So there's something that we're doing right by letting people talk about their project, but also feeding them information about how to present it in a way that makes sense to when they leave the lab, they're going to go and pitch it and raise money for it. And on the final day, day 3, we have a pitch contest. And if you measure the arc of what they did on day 1 in 20 minutes to what they do on the 3rd day in 2 minutes, you're like, wow, you got it. So, overcoming that isolation so you can get what you don't know, and then take that in and improve what you do, can propel you. So if folks are listening, they want to apply, it's cinemaexchange.org is our website for the Northeast Filmmakers Lab.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, working in isolation can be fun until it's not. And I think we got a whole lot of that. Even, being on Zoom can help, but when you're consistently by yourself, I think after a while, especially for very social people, I think
Right.
After a while it can really start to wear on you. Like most of the time I work by myself, and then when somebody says, do you want to come into the studio and we're going to have a couple people there, it's like, yes, please get me in front of people. Or when somebody said, do you want to go meet for coffee? Yes, please get me out of here. I don't want to be by myself. So yeah, I think that's great. Thank you. And then Josh, and hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Hi. We were just talking about the biggest challenge with your job, but I'm going to get back to you. I'll come get you shortly. Give you a minute to get settled and everything. So
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. All right, Josh, what's the most challenging part of what you do in your job?
Which one?
Most challenging issue, is there any one that's like across the board that is consistent in all of them? Oh, the one that causes you the biggest headache.
I don't get headaches. I truly appreciate that. I don't look at the world that way. Everything is
Amazing.
It's a challenge. It's not a problem.
Love it.
But like I said, it's hard. It's not complicated. The biggest thing is people and process. So the more you know, the more you get ahead of, and the more you listen and understand, the easier this gets through life.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Well, thank you. That's going to put a little pep in my step the rest of the day. Be like, this isn't a problem. It's a challenge. I'm just going to rephrase everything like that.
So
construction
as a theater
outside my
major,
studio, it's a challenge.
I can't keep that for the last 5 years.
Yeah. I'd say on that one, we call it an opportunity. It's not about, this is an opportunity for something.
Love that. Speaking of opportunity, I would love the opportunity for you to introduce yourself, Sarah. Talk a little bit about you. See, we just pivoted with that. Yeah.
Great segue.
Thank you.
Segue.
I thought it was good. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. We're so happy you're here.
I'm excited to be here, and thanks for working the timeline. So I'm a film designer. I've been working for the past 16 years as a film designer, and I'm taking all that experience and my experience with training as a performer prior to that and a director, and turning that into a course online about how do you world build for filmmakers, film design and what that means. So going through what I call the 4 layers of storytelling within film, from world building to the actual filming process through to the edit, and that being film design. And so I teach filmmakers that process so that in a way that is manageable, linear, and also not linear, but has a formula so that people can follow it. Because what I found going out into the world is that filmmakers aren't learning about the world building aspect of filmmaking. They're learning about how do you write a script, how do you run the set, but they're not learning, well, what does it look like to talk to designers? So I'm filling in that missing gap from a cognitive science perspective, as well as from an artistic creative perspective.
Fantastic. That's a lot of cool stuff there. Background performer. Love it. I love it. So would you say that's the number one thing that people should know about film design, or would you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
I'm going to go with yes. And the cognitive science behind it. So like the reason I go lean into cognitive science when I talk about stuff is it doesn't matter what I feel, because art can be subjective. And so it's really about understanding how things work in terms of storytelling, because you're going to have something that you need based on your film script that's going to be different from what, the questions you ask on a sci-fi fantasy feature is very different than what you would ask on a horror feature, or a contemporary film, and the needs are different. So if I say a blanket statement, that doesn't serve. So from a cognitive science standpoint, the reason why film design and understanding film design so I mentioned the 4 layers of storytelling in film. So the first one is the script. That's your story type, just to give you guys some context. The second layer is your world building, and that's the physical 3-dimensional world in which your characters live in, and your crew lives in during the filming process, right? So you're going to create and build that world, the story experience genre. And then you're going to take from that world and go into the filming process, where you're going to compress that 3-dimensional image or 3-dimensional world into a 2-dimensional image. And that's all about revelation of form. So how do we see and experience the body through the camera lens? And then the 4th layer being the assemblage, and all about the editing process, and how do we create juxtaposition and relationships with the images that we've captured, right? And so film design is literally the entire process from layers 2 of world building all the way up through the assemblage. And so each layer deals with the questions of storytelling from a different perspective that lean into how you perceive something based on the cognitive science and the way that you feel the world. And each of these elements go into what's called what is the raw data behind when we watch a story and we listen to a story. We are, as humans, literally listening for all the little details that could tell us about what's going to come next. And so in the book Wired for a Story by Lisa Cron, she goes into all of the cognitive science behind storytelling. And this raw data is our film design. So the way we choose to shoot to frame a scene versus how we set up the context of 2 characters. So a great example of this in play is in the film Gone Girl, the scene where Ben Affleck is addressing the reporters about, his missing wife. If you look at the scene and if you look at the shot, he's in a world that's filled with a lot of yellows and ochres and yellowy browns, right? And so if you look, her parents are in the same color palette, and the reporters are in the same color palette, but then he's standing there in a blue button-down shirt wearing blue jeans. And so what's happened there is there's 2 things at play. And what we're getting from that visually as an audience is something's not right. Something doesn't fit. He doesn't fit in this world. And the tools that are and so that's utilizing the concept of being in the world or being of the world to tell us that moment and that story in that moment. And then what's also being played at on a visual level is the use of complementary colors. So he's in blue, which is on the opposite side of the color wheel from yellow. And what happens optically for us is when we see complementary colors, they become more intense, and because they're literally fighting one another for dominance. And so it creates this intensity in the image that's quiet, it's subtle, and it's there. And so if you look at that scene in that moment, he's in direct conflict. And you can even go even further to go, he's wearing materials that are smoother and in quality than those around him. Other people have more visual texture and physical texture to their clothing. So then there's some sort of feeling of a facade compared to everybody else. And so you really get this sense that something's not right. And that's the effect. That's all in the raw data that film design gives you as filmmakers.
Wow.
And so I was that's the whole thing.
Yeah, well, that was going to be one of my other questions, was elaborate on film design a bit. But I mean, you brought up Ben Affleck, so I'm happy. Works for me. I was team Batfleck all the way. I'm just saying. But that fantastic. I was going to rewatch that at some point. Now I think I will, with like a whole new view on it.
Amazing.
Yeah, I would love to ask, because we were wow, that's just a lot. That's great. How did you get started in production? Because you have this cool like background, multi-hyphenate, but how did you get started on this crazy world?
Well, I went and saw a play I always was a performer kid, and then I went at 8 and saw a play at Oregon Shakespeare Festival in Ashland, Oregon, and I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I was like, I'm going to go be an actor. That's what you do, right? This is what I'm seeing. That's what you do. So I studied with an LA casting director. I took dance lessons, singing lessons, and I wanted to be like Harrison Ford and do all my own stunts. So I trained horses. I learned how to vault on horses. So it's like when you stand on their backs, partially a safety thing, but also I was like, well, one day I might have to do this. So I'm going to learn how to do this. I learned archery, all the things like sword fighting, whatever I could learn to be able to do my own stunts. And then I lost my voice and I thought, now what? I had throat surgery and I fell into, right after that, I went to college, and my dad goes, well, why don't I see about the costume designer? Like, you always made your own clothes. You always did stuff backstage. Why don't you do that and see what happens? And I fell in love, and I was like, I get to do everything. I get to do all the character breakdowns and all the psychology. And I was like, and I don't have to worry about what I look like. Yes. I'm in. And so that was the start of it. And then I just doggedly pursued. I went and got my master's, went and moved to New York and did the thing there. And I've been doing the thing there, and just said yes to everything, and just kept asking and cold emailing. And when people ask me how to get in, cold email, call, drop a resume off. You just don't know who's gonna use Crewmea. Like, legitimately, use Crewmea. Put yourself anywhere and everywhere that people who are going to be hiring will be looking, and then know your worth to know when you're being asked to do something that's not in line with yourself, your value and as the person, and when to say yes, because it's worth maybe getting a little uncomfortable to be able to make those connections or do whatever it is you get to do.
Know your worth. That's amen. That's a great, not only is it great professionally, but also great for personally. So I love that. Something I had asked Josh and Mike was, how have you pivoted during the pandemic? Like, I know we're all like sick of talking about the pandemic or the panini or whatever you want to call it, but how did you pivot?
It's funny because I would go like, I guess it's technically a pivot. I just kind of went, man, I've been asked to do these courses. One, how can I serve my industry? That was actually the very first question, was how can I serve my industry? I love what we do. And what's been the hardest thing for me to hear over the course of the pandemic is so many people go, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. This industry is destroying me. This isn't worth it. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not worth it? This is the best career ever. Like, I love this. Like, I have no desire to do anything else ever, because this for me is in alignment with everything that I love. I mean, I'm like, you want to be an accountant? Come be a film accountant. You want to be a lawyer? Come be a film lawyer. Like, we need
I can testify. Sarah loves it so much. She fit me for a costume at 1 a.m.
Yep. Yeah. I forgot it was 1 a.m. Yeah. I'll do so, I think because I also got Josh is going to be our person. So here you go. And I was like, okay, let's make it work. So I really want to see that shift of one, people, let's make this an industry people don't run from. And some of that is, and some of what I've seen in this world is that people are feeling undervalued. So one, how do we shift the way we show value? I actually make the point to show that in my trainings. And so during the pandemic, it was, how do I help people so they don't get so burnt out. And that was first, all right, let me teach you about budgeting for hair, makeup, and wardrobe for your film, so you understand what are the things you actually need. And then it was like, oh, well, you know what? People don't even know how to make a lookbook right now. They don't understand the visual aspect behind it. They think it's all about just so they can get money, but really it's about how are you connecting with your story. It's not about, and if you're not connected to your story in your lookbook, no one's going to care anyways. So how do we get you to understand then film design and world building so that you actually know what you need financially to budget for your film? And then you can start up in your jobs and not be so pressed for time. And I just had a call today. I started my free training on world building, film design, and budgeting for your creative vision. And in it, one of my previous students came to the free training anyways. And at the end, he was like, I have to tell you, I've been using Unreal to do my previs for my sci-fi film. And I didn't realize how many questions would be asked. And I've been going back through your work and to answer those questions. And now I'm getting what you're saying. And now I'm getting that because I'm answering these questions now, I'm saving myself a lot of struggle in the end. And that's the whole point. And so my pivot has been to do these courses, but I've also been going back and designing as well. So I'm like, but I actually went back design and decided that this was more important to be focusing on. So I'm taking a pause from the production work to do these courses to get this word out, because the thing I want to see is that people are thriving in this industry. And that's more important to me than any sort of creative life that I get from designing. That's the world I want to live in. And so I guess that is my pivot. I was kind of like, well, I didn't really pivot, but I guess I did pivot. So.
Wow. Yeah. There seems to be a theme tonight is being of value and providing value. It seems to be kind of the underlying theme of everybody here tonight, which is fantastic. And that was something else I was going to ask you is about your current projects that you have going on right now. Mm-hmm. So you're pivoting towards your courses, which is great because think about how many people you can help with that all at the same time. Is there anything that's coming out that you've been working on or that you were working on that's coming out that you can share and talk about that's not under, fun contracts?
Well, my film Tapawingo has been really sharing itself in the world. So that's coming out. That was a film. That was a wild story. I got called on a Thursday. I officially booked the film at 10 o'clock at night, the Thursday of their first week of shooting. And they were in Virginia and I'm based in New York. And so I was like, okay, I'll see you Monday morning for call. And, but they're talking. So that one was fun because I love when I get to do costumes that are a part of the joke. And then I just heard that we're getting close to picture lock on a film I did in Minnesota that hasn't really been released. So I can't really talk too much, but that one I'm really excited about because it's a lot of like world building and, grounded in reality. So stay tuned. Yeah.
Nice.
And then there's something Josh and I did that's also coming out. That's going to be an interesting.
It's going around the world right now.
So,
what is it?
I don't know.
Can you talk about it?
I don't know if we can, right? Josh, I don't think we can.
We can because it's on the festival circuit. It just hasn't been released.
Oh, they've announced it? I didn't even know it was announced. So I don't even know.
They had a premiere. Yep.
Oh, they did? Oh, wait, no, that one? Are you talking about 18 and a half or are you talking about the other one? 18 and a half is out in the world.
I'm not talking about the other one. That one we can't talk about.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's one that like basically all my really fun and exciting things, I can't talk about it. That's what I was talking about, Josh. The one we can't talk about.
Got it.
Welcome, everybody.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I didn't. It's
I produced that.
Soul. So you're welcome. So yeah, stay tuned. That's what I got for you.
We can say it's new media. It's going to be interactive. Yeah. It is a theater film hybrid. That's about all we can say about it.
Ooh. And the costumes, I did the costumes on it, and I'm going to tell you right now,
incredible.
They are sick. You're welcome.
Okay.
I'm like, and I did them all in like no time. So You're welcome.
So start to finish on that, I got hired 20 days before we moved into the stage. I called Sarah within 24 to 48 hours of being hired. And we moved into the stage August 1st. We started shooting 5 days later. And we did an episode a day with 1 day off and then another episode and then 1 day off and then another episode and then a weekend and then another episode. And that was a challenge.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that sounds really cool.
It's gonna be cool. Every yeah. I don't want to say anything else, but the costumes are ridiculous. So if you want to laugh, you definitely want to check this out, because it's a comedy, and also the clothes are ridiculous and the set's ridiculous and the concept's ridiculous.
I mean, you had me at film theater hybrid. I've come from a theater background, and then you said, do you want to laugh? Like, of course I do. So of course I want to laugh. So yeah, I'm here for it. And I am all too familiar with the NDA life, and you breathe a word about this and you're sleeping with the fishes. So yeah, no worries on that. But thank you for sharing everything you could about that. That sounds incredible. We are probably going to be wrapping fairly soon-ish. I don't want to leave because this is great and I'm learning so much from all of you. So I appreciate that. But this is a question I like to ask people, and I'm glad I get to ask it tonight. And I want to ask each of you this, and starting with Mike, is what's the biggest lesson you've learned over the years throughout your career? If you can narrow it down to one lesson, or if it incorporates a bunch of different things, but some words of wisdom for us, for maybe anybody who's watching right now who's in a weird place, or I think we're all kind of in a weird place, so no pressure, but Mike, you have to inspire us right now with your biggest lesson. No pressure, but I think you can do it.
Well, I'm going to borrow from Steven Spielberg, who later on said he wished that he put more of himself into his early movies. And so I would say that to anybody that's listening, to trust yourself more, because the old saying out there in Hollywood is nobody knows nothing. And I really think that that's true. And things come to you because you're the creator, you're the spark. And so why not trust yourself? Why not be the person who has the next right answer or solution to a problem? Because it's going to come from you. You're the author and you're the creator. So trust yourself.
Wow. Okay. I asked and you delivered. I love that. Thank you. That was great. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
Bonnie, before you go on, can I ask Sarah a question?
Always.
Was the car behind you when you worked on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? Like, did you keep that from the film set? Well, tell us about that car. I'm looking at this car in the background. It's like stunning.
Thank you. So it was a gift my mom got my dad. It's his rat rod. So it's a custom build with parts from cars from the 30s and 20s, and I'm in a moment of spending time with family due to a bunch of stuff. And so I was like, well, where can I work? And I was like, I'm going to work in the garage. And I was like, with this dope car. So it's named after my mom, Louisa Love. So
there you go. The story
it's
right there.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for everything that you said earlier, because when you described film design, what you were saying is that there are no small details in film. And that's what brings me back to film every morning. It's like everything matters. There's not something that matters more or less. Everything matters. And it just consumes me and my interest. And it's the reason why I just love being involved. So I got that from what you were sharing about film design. It's great.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great job.
All right, Josh, Give us a lesson. What's the biggest lesson you've learned over the years? You got big
Oh,
shoes
there's
to
no
fill with
biggest.
Mike,
We know
but
this.
I know
There's
you
so
can
many
do
lessons. All
it.
right. There's one that I actually said to my PA today. It's okay to make mistakes. It's not okay to make the same mistakes. So that's the AD talking. But the thing that I learned personally today, because that's just one that I give. The one that I learned personally is I was talking to a Teamster and I said, thank you. I smiled. I did all the things. And he goes, oh, you're a nice one. I thought about it. And when it comes to ADing, I'm not nice. Like, really, I'm not. I know how to do my job. I push, I do the things. What I am is kind. And that's what I want everybody else to do. Like, you don't have to be nice, but you have to be kind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Josh,
Yeah.
I was on one of my first PA gigs. A guy who hired me says, somebody who comes, if somebody yells at you, you come and tell me, because there's no yelling on this set. And I was scared to death to be, in this new position. This is probably going back like 20 years ago. But I always remembered that. And it's hard not to yell on set, but you shouldn't yell on set. And
I never yell on set. That's what walkie-talkies are for.
People still yell on walkie-talkie. Don't do it.
With headphones, though. You have to have the headphones so not everybody else hears.
Yeah. I love that.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, no yelling on set. Got that. And nice is different. Kind is different than nice. That's a really good point. I really like that. All right, Sarah, close us out. What's the biggest lesson you've learned over the years? No pressure.
Ooh,
no pressure at all.
Okay, I'm like, let me biggest lesson I've learned, I'm like, so many are coming to mind. I mean, it's gonna go back to something I said, and also just on the nice versus kind. Mm-hmm. Nice is not saying something is wrong because you don't want to cause a scene, or you're afraid. You want to be liked. It's coming from, I mean, I had a boss who was nice, but she wasn't kind. And so instead of saying something was wrong, she would play the nice card, and well, I'm being nice. And it was like, you're actually icing me out. That's not being nice. You're withholding yourself from me and not telling me that there's something wrong so that I can grow and learn. And so that's not nice. Because if you were truly being nice, you would tell me I need to learn a lesson, and you would teach me that lesson. And I think that I am going to go with that's the biggest lesson. And I think that's the thing that I want to see more in the world. It doesn't mean that I'm going to tell you something and we're going to go and make you wrong about it. It's that we're going to go, hey, I'm seeing this behavior show up, and it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve the conversation we're having. And this gets to be an opportunity for you to learn and grow. Because at the end of the day, being kind means you truly value and respect the people you work with, and you want to see them succeed. And when those around you succeed, and they lift you up. And if you allow them to be a part of your career and a part of your connection, you all get to have your cups filled. And so I think I'm gonna go with that.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Whoo, that was good. I love that. It all ties together. It's fantastic. And what you were saying about, you want to be liked and everything. There's more people talking about that with people pleasing and all of that. And that can be hard if you grow up that way and suddenly you start to say no and you have boundaries. But that boundaries out of respect for yourself and that kindness towards yourself and other people. It's not a means of pushing somebody away. It's to hold that relationship, whether it's personal, it's working, whatever, but it's out of that respect and kindness for yourself and for them too. So I just thought that was really interesting to phrase it all that way. But yeah, this was really fun. I don't want it to end. I just want to hang out all night and go get some In-N-Out from down the street, come back and just keep talking. But I want to thank you all so much for being here, Mike, Josh, and Sarah. This was really great. Thank you for teaching me so many things I didn't know about film and film design, and this was really great. So thank you all so much for sharing all of your knowledge and being here with us tonight. And I would also like to thank everybody who's watching or who's watching the replay later for tuning in and for being with us on this Wednesday or whenever it is that you're watching it. So Thank you all so, so much, and have a wonderful evening or late afternoon, wherever it is you are right now.
Thank you.
Bonnie, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.
You might be looking at Shoot Stop Video and thinking, so how does this all work? Is this about A, setting up the whole crew for me, B, just giving me options and having me handle it, or C, something in between? Well, it's D, all of the above. To put it simply, we're here to help you in any way that we can to get the crew and talent you need for your next production. We believe that every level of video production can benefit from a well-maintained list of qualified crew members for every position. This goes for pre-pro, on-set, and for post. Every project is different, so if you need a producer to help manage the decision-making process, then we can totally do that. If you're already a producer and want to build your own crew from scratch, then go for it. We're here to make your next production a success. And if you are crew or talent looking for producers that want you, then you've come to the right place. Sign up now, and also leave a referral for any solid people that you know that are already on here. Thank you for considering Shoot Stop Video, and happy shooting!